Hey friends, welcome back to the Bald Booktuber. My name is Scott. One of the videos I am consistently asked to do is a digital bookshelf tour of my Kindle library. So that is what we are going to do today. Um, Hopefully you enjoy it. In unrelated news, I do have my Amazon wish list added and my birthday is the 29th of January. So do with that information as you will. But seriously though, there are a lot of books on here. It is a fair amount of time to scroll through and talk a little bit about each one. So I skip over stuff that I don't think is relevant or that people won't be interested in and talk about some of the things that I think people will have interest in. I hope you enjoy it. If it is a hit, then I will likely do the same thing with my Audible audiobook library as well, if people are interested in that. So let's go ahead and cut over to that, and I hope you enjoy it.
All right, so we got some Thiago Abdallah. We've got some Joe Abercrombie here, and here we have the Age of Madness trilogy, which is one of my favorite things. We have the OG trilogy here, which is fantastic, obviously. We have the Shattered Sea trilogy, which I haven't been loving, but it's still Joe, so that's fine. And of course, we've got the standalones, which are tremendous. So give that all a try. We have Sharp Ends, of course. Here we have Daniel Abraham and his Dagger and Coin series, which I've liked what I've read. I still need to finish that up. We have the Long Price Quartet, which I definitely want to get to. Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We have some Star Wars short stories here called From a Certain Point of View. There's some cool stuff in there. Some miscellaneous items in here that we'll skip on past. And then we've got some Stephen Arion, who is an author I've been following, but I need to get more of his books. We've got some Isaac Asimov with Foundation and The Robot. Let's move on through here. We have, of course, some Frederick Bachman. Britt Marie Was Here is a gift from my friend Matt over at Matt on Books. He got that through my wish list. We have A Man Called Uva, one of my favorite books of last year, and Us Against You, which is book 2 of the Beartown series. Again, one of my favorite things. We've got some R. Scott Baker. I will definitely be getting to the second Apocalypse this year, starting with the Prince of Nothing there, and then let's scroll on through. Got Sinless of Sins, the first book for Josiah Bancroft there. We've got some Ian M. Banks. We have Peter S. Beagle, The Last Unicorn. We've got some Bradley Bullier there. Foundry Side, which I don't know if or when I'll get to, by Robert Jackson Bennett. Miscellaneous items we'll skip on through. We do have the Demon Cycle here, of which I've read the first 3 books. Kind of fell off with that series. It wasn't really what I was looking for. Although I do love that first book, The Warded Man. It was quite good. We got a ton of Terry Brooks here. I won't go into the individual series, but I've been collecting Terry Brooks Kindle books for a long time. And it's not an understatement to say these are of varying quality. Some are quite good, some are not. Some Dan Brown. I don't have Da Vinci Code or Angels and Demons on here, but I'll get them at some point. We've got, of course, the Red Rising series that I'll be rereading leading up to Lightbringer. So look forward to that reread here. We have Black Tongue Thief, which I've heard pretty good things about. We have some Lois McMaster Bujold, including The War of the Five Gods here, starting with Curse of the Chalion. I definitely want to get to that series. Miscellaneous, we have, of course, some Jim Butcher, and we've got Codex Alera here, which I haven't gotten to just yet. And then, of course, we have Dresden Files, one of my very favorite series of all time. It's fun just scrolling through here and looking at all of the titles. Love me some Dresden Files. And then, of course, we got Side Jobs and Briefcases, the collections, and we have the Aeronauts Windlass for Butcher as well. Miscellaneous. I picked up some of these Christian Cameron books. These are historical fiction based on the Brothers Gwynn and their love for this particular author. I got these for relatively cheap, if I remember correctly. Got the Tom Swan books here. These are novellas, I believe. So those should be easy to mix in. And then I think the series that interests me the most is this Tyrant series here. So at some point I'll take a peek and see if these are to my taste or not. We have some Jack Campbell here. I reread a lot of these last year. This is the Lost Fleet series, military sci-fi. I really enjoy it. And then the first 2 books in the Lost Fleet Beyond the Stars sequel trilogy. We got Kushel's Dart here by Jacqueline Carey, of course, which I need to get back to. We have The Terminal List by Jack Carr, one of my favorite ongoing series. Mask of Mirrors, I've heard good things about. The second book is coming. I got The City of Brass, the Daevabad trilogy here. Maybe I'll get to it. Maybe I won't. I'm not sure. I got some, that's the Rendezvous with Rama stuff by Arthur C. Clarke. We have Lead Child, the first 4 books in the Reacher series. I've read the first 2. Some Tom Clancy. We have some Susanna Clarke, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and Piranesi, which I haven't read yet. Ready Player One is in there. We got some miscellaneous stuff. Got some Black Company, Glenn Cook, which the first book didn't really work for me, but we'll try again at some point. Of course, we have The Expanse here by James S.A. Corey. So I think I'm missing book 9 there. I need to grab that at some point. We, of course, have some Bernard Cornwell. We have the Warlord Chronicles, which I'm working on right now, and a collection of the first 4 books of the Saxon Tales. Some Larry Correa and his Son of the Black Sword. I forget the Forgotten something. A little bit of Jim Cramer, and then lots of Michael Crichton, who was my favorite author as a kid, and I still like to revisit. Got some Blake Crouch. A couple of the collections that Rockio has edited here with World Breakers and Time Troopers. We have Sebastian de Castell and Great Coat series. Some philosophy and miscellaneous here that we'll scroll through. We have Stephen R. Donaldson, Thomas Covenant, The Unbeliever, and I've got 3 books in that. I don't know how many more there are to get. Miscellaneous. Tell me if anyone has read any David Duncan. I have grabbed these collections of his stuff for cheap, super cheap, so I'm wondering if anybody's read him. Of course, we got Brian Lee Durfee, The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and the Lonesome Crown, all published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. We have Nicholas Eames and the Band series. We got some Kate Elliott. I'd like to get to her work at some point in time. Miscellaneous. Lots of Steven Erikson, of course. Malazan. In particular, here's Malazan Book of the Fallen. And then we've got Corporal Broach and Beauchelain, and then we've got The God Is Not Willing, some Ian C. Esselmont, and a bind-up of the novels of the Malazan Empire. Miscellaneous, nonfiction, other things. Ken Follett, the Century Trilogy. This is one of the historical fictions I want to get to. We have some Sigmund Freud randomly books that I'll probably never read, but may. We have some Neil Gaiman, and in particular, we have American Gods and the Nancy Boys here. Miscellaneous. Lots of Malcolm Gladwell, who is my favorite nonfiction writer, so some of his stuff is on here. We have The Princess Bride. We have a couple books in with Terry Goodkind, Sword of Truth series. Here is the Mark Greaney Gray Man series. I think I've got all of those except for the new one forthcoming. Daniel Green's book, which is a book I've read. We have lots of John Grisham, who was another one of my favorites as a kid, and I still revisit from time to time. We got Earthsea here, the first couple for Ursula K. Le Guin. We have John Gwynne, Bloodsworn saga here. We have The Faithful and the Fallen here. I've read the first book. And then we have Of Blood and Bone, which I will, of course, read after Faithful and Fallen. You have Peter F. Hamilton, Pandora's Star and Judas Unchained, Commonwealth Saga. I'll be getting to that this year. We get Gutter Prayer by Gareth Hanrahan, which is the first book in his trilogy. Miscellaneous, some Dune stuff. And Dune stuff, and of course the six by Frank are the important ones, so those are here. Some Joe Hill, Napoleon Hill as well. We got lots of Hobb, of course. I won't go into each of the sub-series, but we know what this is. My favorite writer of all time. Some miscellaneous. I started that book Among Thieves many years ago, and I haven't gotten back to it. I think I'd probably like it. We got some philosophy stuff. Spandau Phoenix by Greg Iles is fantastic. Thriller, I like that a lot. We have Lycanius here. I started to read The Shadow of Loss. It wasn't really working for me, but I'll get back to it. We have the Alex Verus series here. This is one I definitely want to get to. I've read the first book or two and like them, but I want to love that series. East of Eden here, John Steinbeck. That's one I'll be buddy reading this year with some friends. We, of course, have some Robert Jordan, including The Wheel of Time, which I'll open up here. So, of course, Wheel of Time. That is that series, as we know. Scroll down a bit. Lots of Guy Gavriel Kay. I've been slowly collecting those over time. I still have some I need to grab, but I'm getting closer to having the entirety of his catalog. Slowly over time as they come on sale and so forth. This Greg Keyes series, starting with the Briar King, it's of Thorn and Bone. I really like this. I want to reread it at some point in time, but I read that several years ago and quite enjoyed it. We've got, of course, The Dark Tower here. So read that in 2022, and it was fantastic. 11/22/63, and all kinds of other King books. So I won't go through each one, but lots of King on my Kindle. So we'll go back through some Dean Koontz, including the Odd Thomas series, which I quite like of what I've read. And I haven't read all of these by Koontz, but I will maybe at some point. We've got some Giles Christian. I'll be buddy reading the Blood Eye, or the Raven trilogy, starting with Blood Eye with my friend Kyle this year. If I like that, I'll probably read this Sigurd trilogy. Got Empire of the Vampire, which I haven't gotten to yet. The Poppy War trilogy, which I've only read the first book of. The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna, is it Lawless, I think? That I want to get to. We've got lots of Mark Lawrence, and I haven't read a lot of Mark Lawrence for how much I actually own. We have Greenbone Saga, of course. We have Fritz Leiber's collection of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, the first volume. We have the Dandelion Dynasty here, which I want to get to. Some H.P. Lovecraft and other stuff. We have, of course, the Gentleman Bastard sequence here. This is a Devin Madsen series, The Reborn Empire. I'd like to try that at some point. We have Juliette Marillier, The Daughter of the Forest. I'd like to get to that book. My friend Yolene, that's one of her favorite books. Of course, lots of George. Again, one of my favorites. A Song of Ice and Fire here. Again, my favorite series of all time. So that's that. Fever Dream is quite good. Fire and Blood is fantastic. Others, and so forth. Yeah, this is the Texcalon series. Memory Called Empire, I wasn't wild about, and I haven't gone to A Destillation Called Peace. Lots of John C. Maxwell, another one of my favorite nonfiction writers. I've been reading his stuff for years. We have some Robert McCammon, of course. Here is the Matthew Corbett series, which I have been reading and loving. And then, of course, we've got Boy's Life, which is amazing. Swan Song, which is amazing. And other stuff I haven't gotten to just yet. Some Cormac McCarthy. We have some Brian McClellan. I have read the Powder Mage trilogy, but I have not yet read the other one, of Gods and Powder or whatever it's called. That Ed McDonald series I'd really like to get to, starting with Blackwing. Um, we've got my friend Chaz's book there from Bookish Chaz. Um, this series I have on here, I've never read. I've heard it compared to Dresden Files. I don't know. We have two of the four books in Peter McLean's Rose Throne series here. So I need to grab the others. Got Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove series here, which I definitely love to get to. And then we have Melissa McPhail's Shadow and Light series here, which is one of the priority series I want to get to soon, if possible, starting with Sephiroth's Hand. So this one I definitely want to get to at some point. Miscellaneous stuff we will scroll through. We've got Michael Moorcock, Elric of Melniboné, like to get to. We have the Ash and Sand trilogy here, which I've heard mixed reviews on. Some people love it, some people definitely don't, but I may at some point try. John Palladino self-published The Trials of Ashmont. I've been promising him I'll read it for a long time, and I haven't gotten to it yet, but I will. Ada Palmer's book here, one of four in her Terra Ignota series. I'd like to get to that series at some point. Miscellaneous. The only Terry Pratchett I own is Mort Pratchett, and I haven't gotten along well with his writing style yet. I've got The Godfather. Got some Ayn Rand, of course. Atlas Shrugged, my favorite book of all time, and The Fountainhead, which is up there. Miscellaneous. Lots and lots of Alistair Reynolds. I definitely want to get to his stuff. We have, of course, Patrick Rothfuss, and we've got the Kingkiller Chronicles, and I do own the novella, The Slow Regard for Silent Things, which I don't like at all. We have Sun Eater, of course. How could we not? Christopher Rocchio is the man. And then we'll scroll down a bit. Obviously, lots of Sanderson stuff, some of which I've read, including Stormlight Archive. Some of it I got for cheap, and I just have it. Here's the two books of The Witcher. I don't know if or when I'll ever get to that. Some John Scalzi. Got the Priory of the Orange Tree. I may get to that at some point. We've got Hyperion Cantos. Definitely want to get to that. Emperor's Blades by Brian Stavely. I didn't read it last year, but everybody seemingly that read it didn't enjoy it at all. Got Anna Stevens here, the Godblind trilogy. I'd like to get to that at some point. I meant to last year and didn't get around to it. Some Neil Stevenson stuff I'll get to at some point. We've got some Michael J. Sullivan here. We've got the Rye Area Chronicles and the Rye Area Revelations. I've read that first bind up of the first two books, and that's all so far from Sullivan. I'll get to it. Here is the Bobaverse, which I quite like, by Dennis E. Taylor. It's a lot of fun. Got some Adrian Tchaikovsky here, a couple of books in his various series. Lots of Tolkien in various forms here, so that's fun. Brian Tracy, that's another nonfiction author I've read a lot of stuff from. Got some Mark Twain. I got some Jack Vance, The Dying Earth. Annihilation by... it went too fast. We got R.R. Verity's The First Binding, so I'd like to get to that at some point. Sword of Kaigan, of course. Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut, which I quite like because it's so weird. Legacy of Ash, Matthew Ward's first book in that series. Got some Brent Weeks, even though I may never read him again. Andy Weir, of course, I've been collecting his books, and they're great, other than Artemis, which I didn't love. Murderbot, I've got a couple of those. I didn't love it. Django Wexler, I got one of his books. Tyler Whiteside's, this series looks interesting to me. The Kingdom of Grit, the Arter Ben books. I've been slowly collecting those. I don't know how many there will be. Tad Williams, of course, I've got Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. I still need to read To Green Angel Tower and Otherland, which I'd like to read at some point. We've got Evan Winter, and we've got the first two books there I've only read, Rage of Dragons. We've got some A.R. Witham, my boy. Got Legend of Blackjack and his newest novella, The Tales of... It went too fast. Janny Words here. The Light and Shadow series. I started to read Curse of the Mistwraith last year, and I'll have to try again at some point in time.
So that was the tour. I hope everyone enjoyed it. As always, publication order always, my friends.